Hello, this is Kay from essentialkorean.com. 안녕하세요. Essential Korean K쌤입니다. In this episode, we will learn to do two things. One, how to connect nouns in Korean, and two, utilize the connector within sentences with the 있는 particle we learned in the previous episode to create sentences a little longer than we've had so far. Does that sound good? Very good. Let's get to work. There are a few words we can use to connect nouns in Korean, namely 와, 과, 이랑랑, and 하고. They all have the same meaning but differing levels of formality. People may choose one to sound formal and another to sound more casual. Today, we will focus on 하고, which can be used in everyday situations. You add the word 하고 to a noun to mean and. In writing, there is no space between the noun and 하고 as the word 하고 is a particle. And as mentioned in the previous episode, you pronounce a noun and a particle combo like one word, without a pause. Let's say you want to say my friend and I. It would be 내 친구하고 나. 내 친구, which means my friend, is immediately followed by 하고, and 나, which means I. Repeat after me to say my friend and I. 내 친구하고 나. 내 친구하고 나. 내 친구하고 나. How about the phrase for Korean and English? Korean is 한국말 and English is 영어. So it would be 한국말하고 영어. Repeat after me to say Korean and English. 한국말하고 영어. 한국말하고 영어. 한국말하고 영어. How about Seoul and New York? Yes, it would be 서울하고 뉴욕. Repeat after me to say Seoul and New York. 서울하고 뉴욕. 서울하고 뉴욕. 서울하고 뉴욕. You can have a string of nouns connected with the particle 하고 after each noun until before the last noun in the string. So if you want to say Seoul, New York, and London, you would say 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던. I'll say the phrase again. Repeat after me. 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던. 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던. 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던. Very good. Likewise, if you want to connect four nouns, add 하고 after each of the first three nouns and then say the fourth noun. So, if we add one more city, 파리 for Paris, to the string of three cities, Seoul, New York, and London, we have 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던하고 파리. Repeat after me. 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던하고 파리. 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던하고 파리. 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던하고 파리. In more informal settings, though, you may actually hear native speakers adding noun connectors like 하고 to the last noun in a noun sequence. If we apply this to the example before, we would say 서울하고 뉴욕하고 런던하고 파리하고. When starting out with Korean, I think it's easier to just remember it the traditional way without the noun connector after the last noun. But I want to include this so you won't get confused in the case it happens. Let's change the category now and try listing a few drinks. How about coffee, latte, tea, and juice? Give it a try. Did you say 커피하고 라떼하고 티하고 주스? Very good. Repeat after me to say coffee, latte, tea, and juice. 커피하고 라떼하고 티하고 주스. 커피하고 라떼하고 티하고 주스. 커피하고 라떼하고 티하고 주스. One important thing to note here is that 하고 connects nouns, but 하고 cannot be used to connect sentences. The connector for sentences with the meaning and is 그리고. 그리고, 그리고. In the previous episode, we learned a conjunctive word 그런데, which has a meaning between and but. Add one more to your list of Korean conjunctive words, 그리고, which means and. So in short, 하고 is a noun connector and 그리고 is a sentence connector, both with a meaning and. Now, let's move on to expanding the lesson from last episode with what we just learned. Imagine you and me at a party. Someone asks our friend Thomas what he's drinking. 뭐 마셔요? Thomas, who's holding a cup of iced tea, would say, iced tea 마셔요. The person then asks me what I am having. 뭐 마셔요? I'm having wine. 나는 와인 마셔요. Which means, as for me, I'm drinking wine. 나는 와인 마셔요. Now, I'll ask you a few questions based on the short exchange of dialogue you just heard. You can utilize the 은는 particle from the previous episode and the noun connector 하고 in your answers. Question number 1. 토마스는 뭐 마셔요? As for Thomas, what is he drinking? 토마스는 뭐 마셔요? I'm waiting for your answer. You are correct if your answer was 토마스는 iced tea 마셔요. As for Thomas, he's having iced tea. Please repeat after me. 토마스는 iced tea 마셔요. 토마스는 iced tea 마셔요. 토마스는 iced tea 마셔요. Here, 는 after 토마스 is used as a topic particle, signaling Thomas as a topic of the conversation. For question 2, what if I ask you this? 토마스는 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요? As for Thomas, is he drinking iced tea and wine? 토마스는 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요? This is a perfect place to utilize 은는 as a contrastive particle. Iced tea, yes, he's having that, but wine he's not. 아이스티는 마셔요. 그런데 와인은 안 마셔요. Notice the 은는 particle after iced tea and wine. Listen again. 아이스티는 마셔요. 그런데 와인은 안 마셔요. You may choose to have the subject phrase 토마스는 as per Thomas if you want to emphasize that it's Thomas we're talking about. Or if we are comparing Thomas with someone else. Please listen. 토마스는 아이스티는 마셔요. 그런데 와인은 안 마셔요. As for Thomas, he's drinking iced tea, but he's not drinking wine. As you can see in this sentence, 토마스는 아이스티는 마셔요. You can have the 은는 particle after both the subject, in this case Thomas, and the object, the iced tea. Listen again to the dialogue, the exchange of the question and answer. 토마스는 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요? 아니요. 토마스는 아이스티는 마셔요. 그런데 와인은 안 마셔요. Is Thomas having iced tea and wine? No, Thomas is having iced tea, but he's not drinking wine. Please repeat after me in saying Thomas is having iced tea, but wine on the other hand, he's not having that. 토마스는 아이스티는 마셔요. 그런데 와인은 안 마셔요. 토마스는 아이스티는 마셔요. 그런데 와인은 안 마셔요. 토마스는 아이스티는 마셔요. 그런데 와인은 안 마셔요. How would you answer the next question? Question number 3. K쌤은 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요? As for teacher K, is she drinking iced tea and wine? K쌤은 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요? Think back to how we utilize the 은는 particle to answer the previous question and apply that here. Correct if you said K쌤은 와인은 마셔요. 그런데 아이스티는 안 마셔요. As for teacher K, she's having wine. On the other hand, she's not having iced tea. Please repeat after me to communicate that teacher K is having wine at least, but iced tea, on the other hand, she's not. And we do this with the help from the 은는 particle. K쌤은 와인은 마셔요. 그런데 아이스티는 안 마셔요. Again, K쌤은 와인은 마셔요. 그런데 아이스티는 안 마셔요. K쌤은 와인은 마셔요. 그런데 아이스티는 안 마셔요. The point I wanted to get across by going through questions 1, 2, and 3 is that yes, it is possible to have the particle 은는 after the subject and also after the object in the same sentence. The next question is for the second key point of today's lesson. Consider the string of nouns connected with 하고 as one unit and place an appropriate particle after the last noun in the string. Let me explain with question 4, where I'll now ask about Thomas and teacher K together. As for Thomas and teacher K, what are they drinking? 토마스하고 K쌤은 뭐 마셔요? Before answering the question, did you notice where the particle 은는 is placed in the topic phrase Thomas and teacher K? Yes, it's after K쌤. 토마스하고 K쌤은 It's shown here, we do not place a particle after each noun or after each 하고 in a string of nouns. The particle is added only after the last noun or pronoun in the string. Thus, consider the string of nouns connected with 하고 as one unit and remember to place an appropriate particle always after the last noun. This rule applies not only to the 은는 particle, but to all particles. Okay, with that in mind, listen to the question again and answer. 토마스하고 K쌤은 뭐 마셔요? You are correct if you said 토마스하고 K쌤은 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요. Thomas and teacher K are drinking iced tea and wine. Sentences can get longer with the connector 하고, but try not to get intimidated. Sentences with multi-subjects and multi-objects are essentially in the same structure as sentences with a single subject and single object. For example, in the sentence, 토마스는 아이스티 마셔요. Thomas is drinking iced tea. 토마스는 is a single subject phrase and iced tea is a single object. In the sentence, 토마스하고 K쌤은 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요. Thomas and teacher K are drinking iced tea and wine. The phrase 토마스하고 K쌤은 is a multi-subject and the phrase iced tea하고 wine is a multi-object. One sounds short and simple and the other longer and therefore more complex. It helps then to simplify the sentence structure by thinking about it in chunks. Please try it as you listen to these two sentences. 토마스는 the subject chunk, iced tea the object chunk, 마셔요. And 토마스하고 K쌤은 that's the subject chunk, iced tea하고 wine that's the object chunk, 마셔요. One more time without my interruptions. 토마스는 아이스티 마셔요. 토마스하고 K쌤은 아이스티하고 와인 마셔요. Can you visualize that the two sentences are essentially in the same structure? It's just that the strings of pronouns and nouns got longer with the connector 하고? I hope you did. Just as we witnessed how the 은는 particle can be added after the single subject phrase and the single object phrase in the sentence, 토마스는 아이스티 마셔요. We can have 은는 particle in a multi-subject and multi-object phrases as well. Listen to this sentence. 토마스하고 K쌤은 아이스티하고 와인은 마셔요. Did you notice 은 after K쌤 and also after wine? Listen again. 토마스하고 K쌤은 아이스티하고 와인은 마셔요. So, what does the particle 은 after 토마스하고 K쌤 and also after 아이스티하고 와인 do? Well, they add a nuance and meaning in an implicit way. It's saying, as for Thomas and teacher K, 타마스하고 K쌤은 at least iced tea and wine, iced tea하고 와인은 this implies that there may be other drinks they're not having, but they are at least having iced tea and wine. They drink, 마셔요. All these extra layers of nuance and meaning are being carried out by the wonderful particle 은는. So, I know a lot of learners find the particle system a real headache. But depending on how you look at it, they're really wonderful tools to communicate your intention and thoughts subtly but clearly. So, don't hate these Korean particles, but rather embrace them for the roles they play in the Korean language. Okay, enough about why we should love the notorious Korean particle system. Let's get back to work and practice speaking. Repeat after me to communicate the idea that as for teacher Kay and Thomas, they're drinking wine and iced tea at least. Please repeat after me. K쌤하고 토마스는 와인하고 아이스티는 마셔요. K쌤하고 토마스는 와인하고 아이스티는 마셔요. I'll say the entire sentence, which means as for teacher K and Thomas, they're drinking wine and iced tea at least. K쌤하고 토마스는 와인하고 아이스티는 마셔요. To review, key point 1. It's possible to have the 은는 particle in more than one place in a given sentence. Key point 2. In a string of nouns connected with a noun connector like 하고, add a particle after the last noun in the string. Okay, I'll leave you with a little homework. While the outro music is playing, try creating a sentence or two to tell about what two or more people do. You will have to utilize the noun connector 하고, and depending on how you construct what you want to say, you may also use the conjunctive word 그리고 or 그런데. And of course, utilize the 은는 particle as well. I wanted to give you a sound basis to start building sentences, so I didn't give you too many new words today. I hope you will listen to this episode again to review, and don't forget to engage in active learning. I'll be back soon. Until then, stay healthy, keep making Korean sentences in your spare time, and most importantly, have fun. Happy learning, everyone!